Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Lords and Salaam Cricket India today's Aaj Tak special presentation. Give our two guests a very big hand at the very outset. This is a very special moment. The word legend is overused in the times in which we live. In this T20 generation where today's score is tomorrow's history. But honestly, the two gentlemen with us to kick off Salaam Cricket are genuine legends. If you had to choose an all-time world level across the decades, across the century, most teams would have Shane Warne as their main leg spinner and Sunil Gavaskar as the opening batsman, which is why these two gentlemen are truly special. Thank you very much for being here. And there's another thing that unites the two of you. So I'm going to ask a quiz question. I'm a quiz master when I'm not doing my regular work. So my question is, what is it that unites the world's greatest leg spinner and the world's greatest opening batsman when it comes to World Cups? Let's see if you have the answer.
You go first, mate. Well, winning the World Cup is the one thing that unites us. Probably the only time we were part of the winning team.
No, that's not the exact answer. Come on, Shane.
Did you win a couple of times?
No, I lost the final to Sri Lanka and won another World Cup here. So I'd say it's the same. Sonny and I both won a World Cup here at Lords.
You are the two who won the last two World Cups that were played in England, which is pretty much what it is. 83 and 99, the last two times the World Cup was held in England. One was won by Shane Warne, one was won by Sunil Gavaskar. I'll give you half the marks.
Okay.
Very good, very good.
Happy to get half the marks because I've always believed in opening your account. Never mind if it's with a half, not with a one.
That's the way it is. Okay, let me ask you then the question. 83 India, 99 Australia at Lords. 2019, take your pick. Who's the team that's most likely to win the World Cup? Who wants to go first?
I know what he's going to say. So
really?
Yeah, I know. He's going to say India, so I'm going to say Australia.
Oh, you're going to say Australia. You're picking Australia. Well done. After all those years of trauma with the Australians.
He's going to say India, so I'm picking Australia.
Shane?
Look, I agree with Sonny. I think India are a fantastic chance to win. I think they have. I think they've got a well-balanced side. They've got the best batsman in the world in Virat Kohli. They've got the best bowler in the world in Bumrah. So I think they've got a very well-balanced side, a lot of variety in their attack. I think they'll be hard to go past India. But having said that, England, it hurts me a lot to say that England are actually very, very good. I think they'll be tough. England at home here. I think Owen Morgan the other day, Nasser Hussain asked him at the toss, he said, do you like the favourites tag? You know, and normally most England sides would say, well, you know, you've got India, you've got other sides that are... He said, yes, we love it, bring it on, we like that. So I think the mood in their camp is they believe they can win too. They believe they're the best side in the competition. And I think England and India are the two favourites.
I can't believe an Australian is actually going down to saying an English side could win a World Cup.
I'm telling you, it hurts me to say it too, but they're a very good side.
You know, in a sense, the very fact that today we're actually looking at India as favourites shows how much the World Cup has changed, how much the world has changed. You came here in 1983. What were we, 50-1 outsiders? Rumor goes that you had already planned a visit after the group stages to go to America with your families. You didn't even expect to go through the group stages, and yet you go on to win the World Cup. Today we are talking about India as potential favourites to win the trophy.
Yes, they certainly are, but I must put that story correctly. It wasn't after the group stages. We had planned to have the trip to America after the completion of the World Cup. So that's not true. We weren't pessimistic. We weren't overly optimistic because looking at the way we had performed in 75 and 79, it was obviously something which we hadn't got our heads around because India had not played a lot of one-day cricket. And it was, to be honest, I think our turnaround in the whole thing started, in the format started when we went to Australia in 1980-81, where we had to play 10 one-day games. 10 one-day games, it was 5 against Australia, it was a tri-series, 5 against New Zealand. And that's the first time we started to take the one-day game seriously. There was a lot of thinking, which lines to bowl to what batsman, what sort of field placing to have for which bowlers, etc. So while earlier on, we just went in like a Sunday game, just, have a bash, have fun and come back. This time, there were prizes at the end. There was substantial prize money, and there was a trophy to be won as well. So while earlier on you just played a series, there was nothing to be won. There was not even a token trophy or anything of the sort. So we started to take one-day cricket seriously, and that's where the turnaround actually started. Then we came to the West Indies in 1983 before we came here, and we beat them, the world champions. We beat them once in a match in Guyana. So yes, I think while we weren't being silly by thinking we'll win the World Cup, we weren't negative, we weren't pessimistic either. We thought that if things went our way, we could make a run for the semis for sure.
The rule with Mr. Gavaskar is we are never to remind him about the 36 runs in 60 overs at Lord's in 1975. That is not to be, that's a story not to be told. But that's how the game changed over the years, I guess.
Yeah, but this is the thing. You see, I think what happens in life is that people only remember the bad things. By the end of my career, I think...
You scored 100.
I got 100, which was the second fastest in World Cup history. Nobody talks about that. People only talk about that particular innings. I got out to the first ball of a test match on 3 occasions. But nobody tells me about those 3 occasions. They talk to me about my 100. So I don't know how people, think about things. But there you are. Yes, and when I saw last year, and I want to digress because I think I want to put this to bed. When I saw last year somebody who's got much more talent, much more strokes than I, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, at this very ground, India v England, struggling to put the ball away at this very ground, that's when I said that it sort of actually took me back to that particular innings, because believe you me, the ball was seaming around. It was a red ball. Red ball moves, as Shane would say, it moves a lot more than the white ball. The England bowlers were bowling really well. Every time, like MST did the other day, every time I hit a good shot, it went straight to the fielder. It didn't go between the fielders. So, it was like instead of getting boundaries, it was dot ball, and then the pressure built up, just like it did with the MST that time. So, there you are. Sometimes you have a bad day. Everybody has a bad day at the office.
We buried it. It's over. It's done. It's 83 World Cup that we are going to talk about, not 1975. But Shane Warne, taking off from what Mr. Gavaskar said, how has the game then dramatically changed? You won the World Cup '99, not too long ago, just 20 years. But in 20 years, the game has changed so dramatically with T20 cricket, possibly smaller boundaries, white balls all the time, 2 balls from each end. What's the biggest change that you've seen over these 20 years since you won the World Cup the last time it was played at Lord's?
I think the improvisation and the attitude towards the game now. If, for instance, when you were batting, if there was a deep mid-off, you wouldn't try and hit it over deep mid-off. You'd say it's a dangerous shot. You'd try and hit it over deep mid-on. Now, doesn't matter where they are, they still try and hit it. So I think the bowlers need to improve at the same level as the batsmen have. I think when you get a contest between bat and ball and the pitch conditions are right, there's no mention of small boundaries or big bats or anything like that. So to me, the biggest thing we need to do in cricket is make sure there's a proper contest between bat and ball, an even contest. And if we can do that, the pitch needs to be right. Whether it spins from ball one or a one-day game or it's a test match, it spins or it seams, there's got to be a contest between bat and ball. Otherwise, the bat will dominate too much. But I think the athleticism in the fielding too has been amazing. I think the modern day players fielding, the intensity they field at. I mean, I look at the Indian side, and a lot of the Indian sides I played against weren't the greatest fielding teams, but now they're probably as good as any side in the world at fielding. They're running between wickets. So I think the real athleticism, I think everything that India is doing at the moment, the importance they're putting on Ranji Trophy, the IPL, everything that India is doing, I think a lot of teams are starting to try and copy the way India are playing their cricket. And I think Virat's a big part of that. He demands a certain fitness levels. He demands a certain intensity when he plays. Sure, he goes over the top occasionally with emotions, but I like that. He shows he cares. So to me, I think the biggest changes are the mentality and thinking of the batsman and the athleticism in the fielding, I would say, is the biggest change. I mean, the semi-final against South Africa, we made 213.
That's right.
And it was a fantastic game of cricket. So, because the ball was spinning. If you get the conditions, it evens the contest out, and I think it doesn't matter if it's 400. I don't like 400 plays 401.
So you think the conditions should be more even? You think the bat should be lighter? That there should be a rule that says you can't have a bat above a certain weight? That the grounds you think are too small at the moment? The boundaries need to go back to where they were?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there's no talk of that when you get the pitch conditions right, because there's an even contest between bat and ball. I think if a bat manufacturer can make a huge bat, then that's fine. That's an advantage that that company has over another company. So I don't mind about the bat sizes. The ground sizes, I think if we could make them as big as possible would be better. You know, not all grounds can be the size of the MCG. So that's physically impossible. But if we can make them as big as they can be, that'd be great.
Because, you know, one of the things that we're already noticing in the World Cup is the teams that are going to pick up wickets are the teams that will do well. We've already seen in a couple of games, either the fast bowlers or indeed every team has a good leg spinner. Most teams have a good leg spinner, something that was perhaps, you know, spinners when you started off this format were seen to be an endangered species. Now we are seeing the return of spin with virtually every team playing with one, sometimes even with two spinners. Is that another big change that we're going to see in this World Cup?
Certainly. I think as far as spin, there were always spinners, but there were no wrist spinners. Wrist spinners were hardly ever used because wrist spinners were looked at as being expensive, that they would bowl the odd boundary ball in the over. But if I might be a little immodest, 1985, when India won the World Championship of Cricket in Melbourne, that was the first time a leg spinner was used. Shivaram Krishnan was used. And I remember sitting in the selection committee meeting and the selection committee was saying, how can you take a leg spinner? And I said, I want a leg spinner because we're playing in Australia, big grounds, you know, and it'll be difficult to clear the leg spinner. And Siva got, I think, 18, 19 wickets along with Ravi Shastri. So the two spinners played a role. And I think ever since then, ever since the T20 format has come in, the leg spinner has become even more important. And clearly, I think the leg spinners know where to bowl. I mean, look at Imran Tahir, look at all the leg spinners, look at Chahal. I think even Shane, when he bowled, there was just that little more variety. With a lot of the medium pacers, with a lot of quickies, there is a predictability. So the batsman can line them up. With a leg spinner, you can't always line them up. Look at Rashid Khan, for example. He's a quicker leg spinner. You can't line him up. You can't say, I'm going to go down the pitch because, you know, he might bowl it just a little bit. So that's why I think leg spinners have a big role to play now.
Basically, he's saying you got to make a comeback. Shane, you got to play. You got to make a comeback.
No. I think that it's great to see so many spin bowlers in short form cricket, in 50-over cricket. And I think it's because they're being used very well. They're being attacking options. But I think the batting, they don't pick the bowler as much anymore because all they're trying to do is slog them out the park. So there's no finesse. There's no working for twos, a lot of that. They're just trying to, it's either block or hit it because they're not reading the leg spinner that well at the moment. So that's why I think all teams want a mystery spinner or a leg spinner.
Is there anyone in this tournament who stands out for you? I mean, the greatest leg spin bowler the world has ever seen. Is there someone out of all these leg spinners, the Zampas, the Tahirs, the Rashid Khans, the Chahals, who stand out for you as a bowler who could possibly win this World Cup for his team this time?
Wow, there's so many good ones. And I like the variation. There's so many, they're different. They're not all traditional type leg spinners. So they're all completely different. I think the standout, if you had a blank canvas of paper and you're picking a team in 50-over or 20-over cricket, I think Rashid Khan would be one of the first people named. So I'd have to say Rashid Khan is probably my favourite leg spinner to watch at the moment, mainly because the batsmen don't pick him, and I like his aggression when he bowls. I think he's very, very good.
And we'd love to see Afghanistan do well in this World Cup. It's an incredible story. Along with spinners, what's changed, of course, and it's been building up over time, is the way opening batsmen now play. Have you ever thought of Sunil Gavaskar opening with Chris Gayle and what it would be like? You and Gayle opening together. I've often wondered how that would go. You'd probably just take a single and tell him, 5 balls, it's all yours, mate.
Sonny would have adapted. He played the way that cricket was played then. If Sonny was playing now, he'd smash it all over the park. It's simple because he's a great player. Any great player from any era would adapt to the modern day player. The average cricketers ages ago wouldn't.
And I used to see him. After he retired, he'd come and play for our club at Bombay Gymkhana. And every match, he'd hit a couple of sixes. And we'd go to him and say, sir, why didn't you do it when you were playing the game? He said, that time, if I got out, the Indian team got out. And that was the difference between then and now. But the opening batting, when you see a Chris Gale or you see some of the English batsmen, the Jason Roys or Bairstows, just stepping out in the first over, hitting over the top, do you just wonder what kind of game has this become?
I think it's a very attractive game. I quite enjoy seeing that happening. And if you see most of the shots that are played, they're proper cricketing shots. Yes, occasionally Chris Gale will step away and have a bit of a wild heave. But you see the Jason Roys, you see the Rohit Sharmas, they play with a proper straight cricketing bat. So they're playing the only difference is they're playing lofted drives. We played maybe along the ground because that was our DNA, that was our upbringing, in cricketing upbringing was you can't hit the ball above 6 inches. If you did, the coaches would ask you to run an extra lap of the ground as punishment. So the upbringing was different. Now the coaches tell you, go ahead. The word that they use very regularly, express yourself. So they go and express themselves by, lofting the ball up in the air. And they do it with cricketing shots. The lofted extra cover drive, which is a difficult shot to play for a 6. Yes, you can play one bounce. That is seen so regularly. It's so difficult, and the modern batsman does it so regularly. It is just thrilling to watch. It's thrilling. And for me, I know a lot of people say, how can you say that? The switch hit and the reverse sweep gets me off my chair every single time, because when it's connected, it is an incredible shot.
You ever thought of playing the switch hit? I mean,
Sonny didn't need
but
to.
the thing was that the real story was that you used to live in a small gully, I thought, where if you hit the ball high, the windows would break. And that was one of the reasons your mother told you that you have to hit the ball along the ground because I'm not paying for the broken windows. Right? Something like that. But, that's the way the game has changed. But you think great players would, in a sense, adjust to any game? I think sometimes we tend to sort of thereby look at a cricketer only in his generation. You think the greatest in the game would have adjusted? Whether a Don Bradman was playing today, he'd perhaps hit a switch hit in today's cricket.
The great players of any era would always adapt, and that's why they're great. No matter what the conditions, no matter what the style of play is, they would adapt to whatever form it is. And that's why it's so hard to judge. When someone says, pick your greatest all-time side, it's a very, very difficult thing to do. I mean, I look at Viv Richards. You don't think Viv Richards would adapt to today's game? Of course he would. You go back through the years, the Don Bradmans, and he was the greatest batsman of all time. Of course he would reverse sweep if he needed to, because it wasn't the way it was done. I mean, when 96 World Cup, when Sri Lanka beat us, that was sort of the time when the opening role changed. They had
Jayasuriya and Kaluwitharana.